Alright, for tonight is the second of program of 10 meditations on the 5 all accompanying mental factors. So I'll read you the postscript first, and then you do the preparatory practices, and then we'll crack on with the contemplation, okay? So the pause in the video is for you to do the preparatory practices, as always. The 5 all accompanying mental factors are so called because they accompany every primary mind. If just one of them were missing, the primary mind would not be able to cognize its object. So, the primary mind plus the 5 all accompanying mental factors in each moment generates the mental awareness, or one of the sense awarenesses. So we've got 6 primary minds. We've got eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and mental consciousness. Right, 6 primary minds. And each primary mind has at least 5 mental factors, and they are at all times there are these 5 all accompanying mental factors with each of the primary minds. That's 5 times 6, that's 30 all accompanying mental factors. But we might not necessarily be focusing our attention upon something that's very significant with some of them. So we don't, we don't need to be aware of many of them much of the time. But yeah, there are, I think 30 all accompanying mental factors that shape our experience, through which karma ripens, through which we create karma. We create causes, actions. The quality of our actions depends upon the virtue in our mind. And we need to purify our non-virtue so we don't create suffering causes and causes for low rebirth. So, virtue, non-virtue, they all manifest through these 5 all accompanying mental factors. Through the non-conceptual sense awarenesses and the conceptual mental awareness. 6 consciousnesses, primary minds. 5, each of them has 5 all accompanying mental factors. Okay? So if just one of them were missing, the primary mind would not be able to cognize its object. We know that the definition, the essence of the mind is really something that's able to cognize its object. It's clarity in cognizing. It's clear enough to cognize its object. It's empty like space. It does not possess form. So really, what it's saying is these 5 all accompanying mental factors are the basic parts of each primary mind. There could be other parts, but these are the basic parts that are there all the time. Alright, so we'll study this more as we go through. Meditation is based on how to understand the mind. This is one of them. But you'll also go through this more as you study and read how to understand the mind, so you understand more. So the primary mind with its 5 mental factors generates a mental consciousness, a mental awareness, or a sense awareness. So mental awareness could be anger, non-virtuous mind of anger. So I think that might be the subject of this meditation. Alright, so I'll pause now, do preparatory practices, and then we'll come back and do the contemplation, meditation. Alright, so the contemplation and 5 all accompanying mental factors. Our mind at the cause, meditation B, in a 10-fold meditation program. Alright, the next bit. In fact, I wrote quite a lot of this one. I wrote all of it. In a previous life, we had a mistaken discrimination. We observed a sentient being, and instead of recognizing our mother from previous lives and generating a wish to repay the kindness of this mother, one among countless, we instead labelled them an enemy. We regarded this person to be a rival and a threat to our selfish wishes, and we were offended by their behaviour and what they represented. We developed antagonistic feelings towards this person, and we behaved selfishly because of mistaken discrimination. We got someone in mind. You can use as an example for that description. Someone you worked with, maybe. Or someone who interfered with your life. You developed anger. On the basis of self-grasping ignorance, believing that what appears to our mind exists in the same way, truly existent, and others who disagree are wrong or do not know what we know, we develop other delusions, such as deluded pride and jealousy, and competitive deluded rivalry based upon jealousy, and anger and resentment and malice. On the basis of these vicious minds, we commit non-virtuous actions. We discriminated an enemy, thinking that this is an inherently unpleasant person, and we developed the feeling experiencing them as unpleasant. And due to this mistaken discrimination, we hold this feeling to be caused by that person existing the same way as they appear to us. We think that our enemy truly exists. These are the deluded conceptions in our mind. That's how we all hold the object of anger. The object does not exist, but we think it exists in this way. Suppose we mistakenly discriminate our enemy or rival as a threat to what we want, and we decide to ruin his reputation with a false rumour in order to prevent him getting what we want, what we think we should have. This is the non-virtuous action of covetousness, motivated by jealousy. This mental action leaves an imprint or seed on our mental continuum or subtle consciousness, and this seed remains dormant until the conditions come together to enable that seed to fully ripen as the suffering result of our non-virtuous action. Our tendency is to subjectively regard this person as unpleasant, as we did before, so long as our view is not changed. These contaminated feelings give rise to aggravation and rivalry. We may feel that they deserve what they get when they are not successful in getting what we want. to commit this non-virtue, whether or not we get the opportunity to carry out our despicable plan or not. We develop attention on the means by which we hope to complete our verbal action of divisive speech. Here, with mental factor attention, we focus upon the particular attributes of our object, such as some of our rivals, business activities, and business partners. Then we develop a non-virtuous intention to commit divisive speech in order to fulfill our covetous wish, for example, to get a job promotion. Here we have focused our primary mind on the object, our ambition to get that job promotion, or to become the boss of a company, or the criminal mastermind and gang leader, or a coveted and privileged clerical position in a church or a mosque, for example. So you might not do this in this life now, but in many of your previous lives, you could have done it. If you allow delusions to remain in your mind, you're going to do this many, many times in the future, create massive negative causes for the lower realms as well as many other types of suffering. Because we have this mistaken mental discrimination, which is a mental awareness, we may also develop mistaken sense discriminations. These are also minds, but they are non-conceptual minds. For example, we may conceitedly regard our enemy to be ugly or their speech to be unpleasant. We may not enjoy being physically close to them because of a mistaken discrimination associated with body consciousness. These are mistaken body awarenesses. So earlier on in How to Understand the Mind, it says that the quality of our action depends upon our virtue or non-virtue. And if we develop a non-virtuous motivation such as anger, this colours every other mental factor that we have. So we've got an angry mind, then all the other mental factors are affected by that. They're dependent upon that, you see, which is why we need to get non-virtue out of our mind and put virtue in our mind through meditation. We only develop virtue when we understand with wisdom the benefits of having a mind, and then we have that mind, and that mind is a cause for happiness, and the cause for happiness is virtue. So we need to use contemplation and meditation in daily, everyday life as well as on our meditation cushion, and get the mind, the mental awareness right, a virtuous mind, not a non-virtuous mind, and then every other discrimination associated with the sense consciousnesses will fall into place as virtuous sense consciousness as well. That's my understanding. Sorry if that's wrong, but that's my understanding. And you can read in How to Understand the Mind about that. But it's worth noting that each of the primary minds functions independently. Like in each moment, each primary mind is its own primary mind, and each has 5 all accompanying mental factors. So it's not just like one mind determines everything. It's not like that. So yeah, let's continue with contemplation. The main thing is to remember to have a virtuous mind and to guard our mind from non-virtue. And then we're not creating causes for suffering within our mental awareness, but also within our sense awarenesses, because the suffering in our sense awarenesses comes from somewhere else. Well, it comes from some kind of non-virtue too. And it might just be the ripening of negative karma on our sense awarenesses that could have been created in our mental awareness previously. Or I think how it works is the mental awareness causes non-virtuous sense awarenesses as well, such as discriminations. So sorry, we'll just try and continue with the contemplation. So mistaken mental discriminations may lead to mistaken sense discriminations too. To our mind, our enemy appears to be ugly and their speech unpleasant. Nevertheless, each primary mind functions in its own way, in its own continuum. So if we want to understand our mind, then we realise there's these different minds. Each one's ripening different karma each moment. We develop mental and sense feelings based upon these mistaken discriminations that is caused by our delusion, labelling them as our enemy. We experience them as unpleasant to see, to hear them, or to be in close proximity to them, and we experience thinking about them as unpleasant, all because we hold the view that they are an inherently unpleasant person. Therefore, one delusion shall be the basis upon which other delusions develop. If we are not careful, we can become obsessed with our rival and develop the secondary delusions of resentment and jealousy as well as anger. When we are thinking about our enemy, our mind has come into contact with the object of our anger, and this is when we develop these unpeaceful feelings and non-virtuous intentions. Mental factor contact perceives its object as unpleasant automatically, because mistaken discrimination has already decided that this is an inherently unpleasant person. Mistaken discrimination causes contaminated feelings, and contact is the mind at the moment when these unpeaceful feelings are manifest, because the object of our mistaken discrimination appears to our mind. The six objects, the objects of the sense awareness, isn't the object of our mental awareness. These 5 all-accompanying mental factors are present at the time when we complete the karma of the non-virtuous mental action of covetousness and the delusion of hating somebody. Discrimination, contact, feeling, intention, and attention all played their part at the time that we committed the non-virtuous action. These actions condemn us to samsara, the cycle of uncontrolled, contaminated rebirth and suffering. For as long as we have these mistaken discriminations, we will be trapped within our true suffering world, and we will be in a great danger of taking lower rebirth where it is almost impossible to find escape. Excuse me. So, to conclude that contemplation of the placement meditation, therefore, with all our courage and effort and wisdom, we need to apply the 5 forces and win freedom from this cycle of suffering. We must abandon delusions, wrong awarenesses, mistaken discriminations as soon as possible. So through studying and contemplating, come to understand our mind. Through meditating on the determination, the conclusion, we realize we do not want anger in our mind. We guard our mind from becoming angry throughout our daily life with the motivation to attain liberation, permanent inner peace of mind. Five forces: aspirational prayer, familiarity, the force of destruction, which means purification, the force of white seed. Sorry, I've forgotten one. It might be the force of effort. Not sure. It's worth reading up. Therefore, with all our courage and effort and wisdom, we need to apply the 5 forces and win freedom from this cycle of suffering. We must abandon delusions, wrong awarenesses, mistaken discriminations as soon as possible. The main mistaken discriminations and wrong awarenesses that we need to abandon are delusions, so that we attain permanent peace of mind. Thank you. Again, the postscript after you've completed meditation. The 16 wrong thoughts explained in the Lamrim teachings and listed on pages 177 to 178 of How to Understand the Mind are all based on mistaken discriminations. For example, the second of these, not wishing to take the essence of our precious human life, involves the mistaken discrimination that the only meaning of this life is worldly pleasure. Dharma practitioners should make prayers to be free from all these mistaken discriminations, because they severely hinder our attainment of the realizations of the stages of the path. Lamrim realizations are attained by eliminating these mistaken discriminations and developing the opposite, non-mistaken discriminations. So each Lamrim meditation, each major Lamrim stage in this meditation program that I'm putting on this channel, there's several meditations for each Lamrim meditation stage. So each major stage, there's 21 major stages. There's 16 correct thoughts and attitudes, and 16 mistaken thoughts and attitudes that they oppose. The virtuous realizations of each stage opposes 16 deluded conceptions.